Hello and welcome back to SHRM Session 2. In this lesson, we will talk about SHRM as an evolving function. We will also look at academic literature related to the topic and cover the dynamics of SHRM that challenges HR managers. Your learning outcomes for this lesson are revolved around and building an overall understanding on SHRM. You will also be able to differentiate between HRM and SHRM. Starting off, everyone knows something about HR. After all, it's about people in an organization. HRM expands into human resource management and is everything to do with the implementation of management principles for managing workforce of an organization. As we know, an organization has different types of resources. You have machines, minutes, money, method, and men and women. And the human resources are managed in order for them to contribute towards organizational objectives and goals. Yet the main differentiator between human resources and other resources is the exact fact that it involves human beings, who in turn have their own goals, their own objectives, their rights, aspirations, needs, wants, and preferences. And unlike in the olden days, when organizations practiced personnel management, which mainly involved administrative tasks like salaries, leave, and other documentation, today's HR managers have a lot to take care of in terms of the most important resource of all, talent. In a nutshell, HRM is concerned with the process of hiring, developing, and retaining the manpower with a view to making them more efficient so as to achieve organizational objectives. In the next two slides, we will look at what HRM is by going over some literature. To give a simple definition to HRM, it is a strategic, integrated, and coherent approach to the employment, development, and well being of the people working in an organization. According to Beer and his colleagues, HRM involves all management decisions and actions that affect the nature of the relationship between the organization and its people. A few years after that definition came out, Guest described HRM as a set of policies designed to maximize organizational integration, employee commitment, flexibility, and quality of work. In this definition, we see that Guest has taken a more specific description to the type of work that HRM is involved with. Another author, Lake, said that HR policies should be integrated with strategic business planning and used to reinforce an appropriate or change an inappropriate organizational culture. Human resources are valuable and they are a source of competitive advantage. This author also said that they may be tapped most effectively by mutually consistent policies that promote commitment and which, as a consequence, foster a willingness in employees to act flexibly in the interest of the adaptive organization's pursuit of excellence. Now, this definition talks about the involvement of HRM in the construction of an organizational culture, which is a good thinking point because HR has a big role to play in the formation, continuation, and change of organizational culture. This definition also talks about how human resources are an important source of competitive advantage for an organization. And the word willingness that is used in this definition can be understood as employee motivation to contribute to the achievement of an organization's objectives. So, what are the objectives of HRM? Organizations that practice HRM do so with several objectives in mind. To ensure that the organization is able to achieve success through people, This is all about human resources being a competitive advantage. Another objective is to increase organizational effectiveness and capability. This means to achieve the goals by making the best use of the resources available. HRM also works to be the source that allows firms to learn and capitalize on new opportunities. Another objective is to define employee contribution, composition headcount, staffing ratios, skill mix, competence, and commitment. And finally, another objective is to facilitate the management of work and people towards desired ends. Not all organizations will pursue all these objectives. However, a mix of these will be attempted. Now let's look at SHRM and how it's different to its predecessor, HRM. SHRM is HRM with a strategic viewpoint. Also, the difference seemed to be just a simple letter S in front of HRM, but in truth, the difference is quite a lot. In a nutshell, SHRM, which spells out as Strategic Human Resource Management, is the process of aligning the business strategy with the company's human resource practices so as to gain strategic goals of an organization. In SHRM, the workforce of the company is managed proactively as opposed to HRM, which is more of a reactive nature. SHRM is all about how an organization's talent is influenced by a lot of factors. It can be micro or macro factors. Human resource management is strategically aligned in SHRM to business objectives, and SHRM takes on a more proactive, long term, and strategic role. In the next two slides, let's look at what SHRM is by going over some literature. According to Wright and McMahon, SHRM is the pattern of planned human resource deployments and activities intended to enable an organization to achieve its goals. A more specific description is provided by Guest. He says that SHRM is largely concerned with the integration of HRM into the business strategy and the adaptation of HRM at all levels of the organization. This sentence is very important as it talks of how SHRM is both vertically and horizontally aligned and integrated, something that we will touch upon later in this session. A comprehensive look at SHRM is provided by Henry and Pettigrew. These authors say that SHRM has different meanings, mainly making use of planning, designing and managing people via a coherent approach, developing systems which are based on employment policy and workforce strategy, bringing out coordination between HR activities and other policies into developing business strategy, and also considering people as resources and achieving competitive edge by making the best of talent. To read more on how authors have defined and understood SHRM over the years, please go through a research revolution in SHRM that is provided in your Moodle. Now that you know what HRM and SHRM is, let's look at comparing and contrasting the two. Wright and McMahon said that SHRM can be differentiated from HRM as calling for vertically aligning HR decisions with the strategy of the firm and also entailing the horizontal coordination of the variety of human resource practices. Here, in this definition, we are reminded that while HRM was more of an isolated function, SHRM is integrated in multiple layers and levels of the organization. Delving deeper into how we can compare HRM and SHRM, by nature, HRM is more reactive. For example, your marketing manager will give notice and to fill the void, you will recruit one to fill the vacancy. Now, SHRM is more proactive. In this same example, if you are practicing SHRM, you will have coached and mentored someone in the marketing department to take on higher level duties such as career progression, and therefore, at the time a marketing manager gives notice, you are already prepared. What's more, if a firm is practicing SHRM, they will have constructed clear career progression paths for every employee. So, in this way, succession is seamless. In HRM, responsibility of employees fell on the HR practitioners. But in SHRM, we believe that every manager is an HR manager, and therefore the responsibilities of employees lie with the line manager. While HRM adopts a fragmented approach, where it is practiced more in isolation to the rest of the functions, SHRM is very integrated in its approach and it binds together the entire organization. The scope of HR is more or less to do with employee relations, relations between employer and employees. But when it comes to SHRM, the scope not only includes employees but includes a lot of internal and external relationships. In the same way, HRM has a comparatively shorter time horizon. It is more short term and deals with immediate actions. On the other hand, SHRM is always long term. For organizations that practice HRM, the basic focus of the company rests upon product and capital. But if a company is adopting SHRM, the basic focus will always be the people of that company and the combined knowledge of these people. HRM follows change. As I said before, it is reactive, while SHRM initiates and drives change according to what is happening internally and externally. Even in terms of accountability, HRM is accounted for as a cost center, but SHRM is always considered to be an investment center.